do I even begin? I got married to my husband about 11 years ago. Since getting married, we have tried and tried to have children, all to no avail. I have gone from fertility clinics to hospitals and even visited churches for prayers, all of which have failed me. The fertility doctors claimed that there is nothing wrong with me and I am capable of having children. I tried convincing my husband to visit the fertility clinic with me, but he kicked against the idea. He always got furious whenever I brought up the idea, sometimes ranting and throwing tantrums. Eventually, I learned to just let it go. The problem, however, is that we were under pressure from both our families to deliver children. 11 years, they said, was a long time to be married without bearing any offspring. As the woman, naturally, I received more of the blame. It became more than I could handle. At one point, I even considered leaving the marriage, but decided against it. Eventually, his family decided that enough is enough, and they brought him a second wife, a young lady from their hometown, to birth children for him. He hated the idea and fought against it initially, but eventually succumbed as he didn't want to ruin his relationship with his family. I lamented at the fact that my husband couldn't stand up to his own father, but since everyone believed that the cause of the childlessness in our marriage was me, I humbled myself and allowed the second wife to move in. They got married 3 years ago, and up till now, no show. No children. One day, I asked my husband if maybe the problem was from him, and he didn't give me an answer. Sometimes he behaves as though he knows he has a problem, but just can't voice it out. He sleeps with both of us regularly, and yet it doesn't look like he's expecting either of us to get pregnant. When I spoke to him about the possibility of being the problem, he just kept quiet. It was as if there was something he couldn't or didn't want to tell me. His family also grew quiet as the failure of the second wife to get pregnant made it apparent that he was most likely the problem. I jokingly asked my father-in-law one day if he would be bringing a third wife to our home, and he couldn't respond. The whole ordeal had become just as embarrassing for them as it was for me. So this is my story. Now, here is my confession. I am a 41-year-old woman nearing menopause, and I want a child badly. My mother went into menopause early at around age 85. By the look of things, my husband may be the cause of our inability to have children, and if I stay loyal to him, I just might live the rest of my life without a child. Earlier this year, I met a man who showed interest in me, and we went out on a few dates. He's a married man who knew I was married as well, so neither of us was deceiving the other. Our intimacy wasn't really born out of love, but simply because I wanted to see if I was barren or not. Needless to say, this man has been able to do what my husband couldn't do for 11 good years. After just a few months together, I am pregnant. The whole thing feels like a dream. I haven't told him or my husband yet about the pregnancy, but I'll have to do that soon as signs have started appearing all over my body. My husband is a very proud man, and he will most likely ask me to abort the child. I have no intentions of doing that. I also cannot move in with the real father, as he is a married man with kids of his own. He is quite well-to-do, and I am sure he can provide for the child, but he cannot be involved in the child's life. This is a problem for me because I believe children need a male father figure in their lives. I also don't want to divorce and raise my child as a single mother. What would you do if you were in my shoes right now? I am not looking for judgment or criticism. I just want advice on what to do next and how to move on from here. I'll be reading the comments. Thank you.
You see, this situation is very complicated. We live in a society where whenever there is marriage and there's no child, then we blame the woman. Yeah. We say it's the woman who is not able to conceive. But the man also has a responsibility to expose their fertility ability. If you cannot give birth, or if you cannot avail yourself to be checked as a man, then you are also burdening the lady. You understand? I've seen countless situations like that in reality as well. And third parties play a big role, because you see, people sometimes answer to certain kinds of people that they sort of respect or honor. You see, so like a counselor would say, it could be a man of God they revere so much. Fortunately or unfortunately, in marriage, you could have you have a man and a woman, but then both of them could have a higher authority they would respond to, no matter what. Sometimes you need to go the extra mile, because you talk to your partner in this situation, she's talking to her husband, the husband is not availing himself. Maybe you can go to your man of God or find out who your husband will respond to. But you see, there are cases where the husband would not respond to anybody.
Yes. Exactly.
You see, there are cases where, and a lot of times, especially when he has something to hide, he wouldn't want to respond to anybody, because if he's not availing himself, use myself for example, when I got married, 3 years I had no child with my wife. And even though I'm a prophet, my wife would say, let's go for a medical checkup. Let's see what's happening. I availed myself for medical checkup and everything was fine. But I believed in prophecy that in the 3rd year I would have a child.
Okay.
And in the 3rd year I had a child, but I availed myself for every check possible.
Right.
You see, but people need to be accountable to something. And I always believe that third parties shouldn't really be necessary. The first person you should be accountable to is your partner. If you cannot be accountable to your partner and you depend on third parties, then there's a problem at home. If your wife speaks to you and you wouldn't understand, but a man of God has to come in, or your boss at work has to come in, then you have a problem. With time, even that third party's accountability will cease. You understand? So it should come from the home. The accountability, the responsibility should be built from the home first. Let's you know, I want to speak to men, because I know this thing. I know people going through this thing as I'm talking now, that even some have ended up in divorce. You see, so let's not put all the burden on women when there's no child in marriage, and you know, castigating them and saying they are the cause of the problem. There are a lot of men by lifestyle who also become the problem, but society seems to shield the man. You see, we seem to, so in this case, he brings another woman, which was not communicated in understanding, and then the woman also proves to him that he is the problem. You see, all signs are pointing to the man. Right. Yes, he's refusing to agree.
Speaking about third party, okay, so I know a couple who had a similar situation, and then the wife was countlessly telling the husband that we need to speak to somebody, we need to bring somebody into the situation. I think I need to speak to, okay, the husband was refusing that, no, you can't go telling our business to other people, you know, all those, and it would always be a heated argument between them. So the lady then decided that, you know what, our pastor is there, our prophet is there, let me go to him and speak to him. But here's a situation where the husband is older than the prophet in age. You get the whole thing. And then only for one day the husband is there, and then the pastor calls him that he wants to have a meeting with him. He goes, and then this is the situation. So after he and his wife going on that agreement, the wife said, okay fine, but didn't tell him that I'm going to report you to the man of God. The man of God just calls him and then speaks to him that you have to do this, you have to go and do the checkup, you have to go and run the test, and then all that. Now he feels he's been disrespected, he's been dishonored, his wife is not submissive, his wife is disrespectful, and then all these things, because he has washed his dirty linen in public by telling a man of God. Yes, he respects the pastor, but because he is older than the man of God, he feels ashamed. And it's brought an issue between them.
So you see, age has nothing to do with leadership. I mean, in terms of even prophetic, God would call a young man, even like myself, and then he would bless the young man with wisdom to be able to counsel even elderly people. So that's not the problem. But with every issue that happens, we need to check foundationally what happened. what happened before that marriage was instituted. So were there checks and balances medically? And a lot of Christians ignore that portion because they believe that, oh, God will do it. And then some people even shield themselves with, oh, there shouldn't be sex before marriage. And so, oh, no, let's not have sex. And I'm talking experiences that I know. So they wouldn't want to have a medical checkup because they seem to defend themselves with biblical doctrines. And that is the problem. So you are listening to us this morning. One of the first things you should do before marriage is to check the fertility of the man and then the lady, how compatible you are. All these must be done so that these problems wouldn't even come up in the first place. And even in marriage, there should be a scheduled time to time, medical checkups, because you need to know what's happening with you. Everything is not going to be in the open with spirituality, you see. So, however, when you say let's speak to somebody, I am of the opinion that your first point of respect and honor as a woman in marriage should first be your husband and not a man of God. I've said this thing countless times. Yeah, I'm a prophet, but I'm saying these things that, you see, you should never put premium on a prophet or a man of God beyond your husband. Yeah. So let communication stay in the marriage. Let's try to talk about it and find solutions.